Hi, everybody. So we're going to do something fun today. And Alisa and Dana are here, and we're going to do Tartaria. We're going to talk about the ice wall. We're going to talk about all the fun stuff. And remember, this is part of the future as well. So past and the future. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, Dana.
Yes, so for those who are new to those types of jargon, the ice wall, Tartaria, we're going to start pretty basic and then we're going to speed up. So let's start really basic, just talking about what is the ice wall and basically who created it.
Okay.
Okay. So it was ET created with frequency, and it wasn't necessarily good for humanity in the long run. Like, it was hard on us. So there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that humans didn't know about. And one of those was the ice wall. So think of the Truman Show. So instead of glass or whatever they used in like the Simpsons movie, we've had ice. And it's called sky ice. And it's kind of in between the color of our two shirts, me and Dana's shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you know stuff about it too, Miss Alisa? What do you have to say?
I do like that we all got on a kind of a blue, so that goes hand in hand with it. The technology that was used to make the dome itself, I mean, it pretty much brought it up and then froze it as it come up like that there. But because it's so thick and it has such high oxygen in it, pure oxygen in it, it can cause it. It's called the sky blue, or that blue ice, which is I would say it's in between what Honey has on and Dana has on it, but it is a beautiful color, believe it or not. But it was an encasing, if you want. You know, we were inside this here ice encase, if you want to call it an igloo, that'd be okay. But the dome itself was made of that really thick ice, and we're talking about as it's coming down to the base of what would be at the bottom here, it was so wide. We're talking something that's 10 to 20 miles thick at the bottom as it pairs off up towards the top. But inside that, they use that same technology to make the two ice walls. Okay, but those ice walls they didn't go all the way up. They only went like a fence, and the inner one is pretty much known as the corral. That's where they keep all of us. That's a 25,000 mile around ice wall that we were in. That ice wall is down. And the second ice wall is pretty much being completed, being taken down as well. But you still have those barriers where it was at, because if you think about it, my brothers and sisters, all of the animals and the species and stuff that's in that water that was on the other side of the ice wall can't mix with this over here, because they have been separated for that long. But they do have a frequency barrier there. I actually have seen it. They're using these buoys, and it's pretty much like a buoy, but it keeps a frequency barrier there to where those animals can't come over into this water here. But that water and this water does have to blend and mix. Okay, it will eventually all blend together to be one water with a different, but they're doing it slowly so that they can adapt. Pretty much. And I've even gotten reports from people all the way even up to where New Jersey and New York is, about how the water is coming more in clearer blue instead of it being that muddy or rusty color. And even down in the bottom half of California, and I've also got it there off of the coast of Texas. And I'm like, so people are noticing that the waters are actually coming in a little bit more clearer. That shows that these things are not just mixing, but our benevolent friends are helping to clean up the water as well. So there you go.
Yeah,
That's
everything is so much cleaner beyond the ice
Absolutely.
walls. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good for our friends up north in New York, because that water is gross. It's brown. Last time I saw it. Yeah. So the firmament can be kind of, we've always heard about that. What is the correlation between the firmament and the ice wall and basically the dome? Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Well, the firmament is also dome shaped, but it covers the entirety of the top of Earth. And it's a plasma versus ice. So it's really thick. It's like gelatin, like jello. So, and it's also shiny.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's why the rainbow still
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's like a dome, I mean, I'll say bubble, a bubble around the Earth
Mm.
herself, and then we're right inside of that, and the dome is covering right inside of that, their atmosphere, if you want to call it that bubble. But yeah, it's the only way that I could probably describe it is if you can actually touch it, is to think about if you blow out smoke and then you can run your fingers through it. You can see the effects of you moving it, even though you think it's not there because you can't feel it. But it's the same kind of, it is a plasma, but it's such a thin type of plasma that you can move through it and you can see it moving with it. But outside of that is a little bit different because we are a bubble inside of um, the photon belt. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're kind of like, what do they call those things that you shake?
Oh, the snow globe?
That's
Yeah.
no glow.
We're kind
Yeah.
of in a snow globe
Mhm.
type situation. Mhm.
Right. So
'Cause we
each
need our
planet has
atmosphere.
one, and each solar system has one. It's like bubbles inside of bubbles.
Yep.
So interesting. So just to go back in time a little bit before we move forward or into the present, Admiral Byrd and his mission high jump in Antarctica, they were flying over the South Pole. Did
Yeah.
he go across the ice wall or in Earth or both? How does that look?
Yes and yes.
Mhm.
But really, I mean, he didn't go deep within the inner earth. It was pretty
Right.
shallow, I would say. Yeah.
Right.
He
So,
got to see it. Mhm.
well, he
Yeah.
went in whenever he went in, pretty much people would call that going into the entering of Agartha or the inner earth and hollow earth and stuff like that there. But like Honey said, he didn't go into the depths of it. He was just at the shallow part of it, but he didn't go outside the dome. No, he just went outside the ice wall. So,
Right. Yeah, that's a difference.
mm,
Okay, very good. And also, the TV show Game of Thrones. Now, I've never watched the whole thing, but they have an ice wall in there. They have dragons. They call some of the citizens Targaryens. Targaryens. I mean, there's a lot of correlation there. Was that created for disclosure?
Yes.
Ice wall.
Yeah. And most
yeah.
of the TV shows are.
Mm,
They're just better now. Like we've got more disclosure in them now than we used to.
mm.
Yeah.
There's a series, I think it's on either Netflix or Hulu or something like this here, and it's about the dome, and it's just catastrophic from their point of view. So I mean, I wouldn't watch it as an like a booga kind of thing, but it does do a lot of not good things for getting people used to this idea. So I mean, I would watch it just just for that fact, but not for the scary parts of it because they make it seem like it's a really bad thing and it's not. So they're putting it out there for us, but they're flipping the script saying, "Oh, it's a bad thing," So
Is that the Under the Dome one? Is it
yeah,
called
under the
Under the?
dome
Yeah.
thing, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think I watched like 2 episodes, and that's really all you need. Like, is a little
yeah,
bit of it to see.
right.
Um, the thing that they did with the cow was kind of heinous. I was like, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, but you
yeah.
notice it came down like a glass shell, right?
Hmm.
And I thought that was kind of unique the way they did that, but it is similar to the domes that they have like down in the depths of the water. They do have these dome fixtures down there that you can actually go in and people like us can, go down there and pop up underneath there and actually breathe air. But they do have these indestructible type domes that you use down there. Something like you've seen in the movie Aquaman. That was some
Yeah.
disclosure there too, because there really are cities down there. It's
Mhm.
amazing.
There's so much going on that's been
Yeah, there
hidden.
is so much. Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to poke around and see what's really happening too.
Mhm.
So we know that based on the way the real Earth is laid out, Russia and also Japan are pretty close to what we would call the ice wall. So
Mhm.
do they have more interaction with the ice wall, or is it more the folks that are in charge, basically, or the white hats? How does that look?
I feel like Russia has.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm
Well,
getting is Russia
if you
has.
look at like stories and fables and people talking about things in this nature here, you will find that there is so many people on that border down there in Russia that has so much to say. And I have actually seen here as of recent, even of the last year, some really awesome UFO videos that's come out. It's like people are paying attention and they can do it and show it now because everybody has a camera on hand. But absolutely, in Japan and that part of the world, they're seeing things that we don't get to normally see. But it doesn't mean it's not happening. We just haven't heard of it. But they do have a lot of stories about it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, and honey, you brought up the discovery of the islands as over
Right. I
700.
wanted to bring that
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Like, wow,
Those
poof, there they
islands.
are. Yeah.
Mhm.
Where'd they come from?
Right. I think there'll be a lot of different things on those islands that get
Mhm.
discovered.
Right. So it's just amazing that all of these new things are coming out with the islands. But let me tell you, my brothers and sisters are right outside of that ice wall. It's going to blow. Not, we're going to back up. Inside where we're at, there is still thousands of islands that we don't even know about. But then there's
Right.
like hundreds of thousands outside the first ice wall, and all of that leads into the Tartaria area and stuff like this here. But there's so many. It's just mind blowing that we only have a little piece of all of it. You know.
Yeah. Well, and everybody was living quite well out there and
Mhm.
not in the best interest of humanity at all.
Mhm.
So that got cleaned up before this got cleaned up. So
Mhm.
everything has been pretty much cleaned up here. We just haven't heard about it yet. But
Right.
out there it was cleaned up several years before that.
Right.
So it's still in the process of, like, I think some buildings were taken down that were
Yeah.
too yucky, but
Yeah,
there's
like
going to
those
be
black
amazing.
cubes.
The black
Yeah,
cubes, yeah.
they were taken down too. They started from the outside and they're working their way in because now whenever they've helped the Tartarians and everything else, those guys are on board to help us. So,
Yeah.
it's all coming towards us. It's like a magnet. It's coming towards us. So, and it's all going happening as we speak. We just need to look a little bit more discerning whenever we look at things and say, oh yeah, that's happening. This is happening, so forth, so forth.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm
Mhm.
so excited because I don't really think it'll take too long for us to be able to go over and start to explore over there.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's gonna open up like talking about the Wizard of Oz kind of thingy and the Crystal City and everything else, the Emerald City. But it is, there's a lot of crystal there. They do have the alabaster granite, like stuff that they use for the pyramids and stuff like this here because it's so bright. They do have that too, but there is a lot of what would look like glass, but it's not, it's crystal. And it's these beautiful crystal cities and how advanced it is. It's just breathtakingly beautiful. It's like you look at that, you don't want to come back to this, It's like this is the swamp compared to that. It's how beautiful it is, but it's coming this way for all of us to have that kind of a world here as well. So that's exciting with all the technology. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And we
Mhm.
will clean up here and we will spend time here, but we will also spend time beyond.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of learning that's going to go on for a very long time.
Mhm.
So that's going to be really
Yeah,
fun. Think of it as fun,
That's right.
not
absolutely.
not yucky or hard. It's just going to be enjoyable. Yep.
That's right. And everyone watching is going to be a part of the learning on our own, and then also helping others learn. I'm excited about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely. It causes the domino effect. We learn and we teach and we teach and we learn, and just like the med beds, so many people have been asking about that too. I said the same thing with the domino effect. It's, just like me. I go in there, I get out of the med bed, and then poof, I know who I'm supposed to go get. I know what I'm supposed to be doing and everything else. And then I go get them people that then bring them back, and then they get in there, and then they remember who they're supposed to get. And it's a domino effect for everybody. So it's actually pretty cool the way it's the public and us is going to merge, somewhere in there in the middle. they're coming and we're going. So it's kind of like a merging. I love the fact that this new technology is going to be present, like the second generation for the med beds. That's already made it self presentable. And of course, you know, that quantum financial system that's done with a quantum computer system, that technology is out. And then this morning, I was listening to, I don't know if it's out there yet, but if I'm wrong, I can admit that. But Elon Musk is admitting that he has a type of a plane now that can go about with supersonic speeds about 4,000 miles an hour. And that's going to be coming out from what is being said, you know, by next year. So I mean, if they have these here, you know, sonic planes, that's what it's called, a sonic plane. And it doesn't use fuel. Okay, it's a sonic plane. Everybody knows what a sonic is. But that's going to be pretty cool to think about getting from New York to California in what, you know, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Think about that. And then the maglabs too. Russia's already announced theirs. Japan's already announced theirs. Russia says they just finished building one. That's bull. It was already there. They just made tunnels to go to it. So, but they are bringing out that news that these things really do exist. So if it's already happening out there, eventually it's going to get here. So yeah.
Yeah. They talked about that during their interview that they did, Trump and Elon at the end. So the trains, the planes, everything is going to advance rather quickly, I think, because a lot of it will be funneled through the guy that's playing Elon Musk right now.
Right.
So it's, you know, because they think of him as a tech guru. So he's going to handle a lot of that. It'll be like, oh, and he invented this. Oh, and he's going to do this, you know? So things will move rather quickly.
Good. And that's good. That's a good transition for the mind of folks that haven't accepted everything yet. They look at to Elon, just like you said, with the technology, and it'll be easier for them to comprehend it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think it makes sense about the different generations of the med beds. It gets us more and more used to it, and more people will jump on board, more people will believe it, and therefore they'll demand for more of it to come, you know, so they can help more people. So it does have its own domino effect as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Building even too.
Mhm.
You know, we'll go from probably doing a lot of cement and maybe foam concrete to doing liquid glass. So we're just going to be evolving constantly. It's going to be really fun. I'm so excited to do all this stuff, you know, because it's like finally it feels more normal to me, honestly. Because when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I was like, what are we doing? What is going on here? You know, and you get into this space and you feel like it's normal. And then all of a sudden, all the things that you kind of had an idea about or you kind of remembered when you were little start to filter back in, and you're like, yes, that's home. That feels like home to me. So I
Exactly.
think a lot of us are going to be much more excited than we have been.
I mean, think about it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we couldn't talk about this stuff, you know?
Uh-uh.
And now it seems so normal, you know? It becomes the everyday thing, you know, where people were scared to talk about it or couldn't talk about it, you know? And now not only are we talking about it, but we're talking about it to masses. And that is an energy that's going to help us manifest things a lot faster. The more
Oh,
people
yeah.
who are believing this stuff, they're going to start seeing it with their eyes, and slowly but surely it is happening, you know. So
Absolutely. So with Mount Meru, and I know Alisa, you wanted to bring this up in
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation, just to talk about the location, and Alisa, some of your questions you had, and then I have some questions also follow up.
So we had a reincarnation wheel that was up, and that was not part of Mount Meru, but it is gone now. It was dismantled, and it was kind of like it was like right across the ice wall, you know, and it was this big selenite disc, but it wasn't a real selenite. It was created. So it was a created crystal, and it was so bright that souls would go there thinking that they were going to God, basically. Mount Meru is more of like that's where you go to transition, you know, and they had an opening that would allow people to go to Mount Meru. But what happened was they closed it.
Mhm.
So the not so nice people closed that up because they wanted to keep the souls here, suffering, doing what they wanted. And a lot of the older souls, they could get in and out because they knew better. But the younger ones, especially humanity, was
Mhm.
stuck. So they were stuck in this kind of dense, icky learning game that we've been in. And Mount Meru is now clear. But Alisa actually had more details about how it actually worked because I didn't really dig into that as much. So,
Well, a lot of people have speculated it's like a giant magnet rock. Okay. And it is. It's very polarized. It's a very magnetic. I want to call it, if you look at it as like a whole of the Earth, it would definitely be a PowerPoint. Okay. And they use that to their advantage. And because it was trapped underneath the dome with us, they definitely use that to their advantage. And that is what gives us our north, believe it or not, is because we are closer to the spout of the toroidal field of Gaia. Okay, and because we are
right.
closer to that entry point, rather, is where we can also see all of these auroras because of the clash of the frequencies there. Which the auroras are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But because of that magnetic field of that mountain, is called at Mount Meru there. They even took it off of maps because they didn't want us to know about it or anything like this here, but it has a vortex to it. And there has been pictures that it shows that this vortex is pulling inwards into it. And it's pulling in because it has these nodes around the center point of Gaia's pulling in. But it's like she has her nodes all over her planet, but they're like magnetic mountains, if you want to call it that. And Mount Meru is one of those power points. And they actually used it to their advantage because a lot of people need to remember that the competitors and the people that we are going against, they're not stupid. These are some very intelligent beings. So, and they definitely
Yeah.
used it to their advantage. Yeah.
A lot of them were extremely old souls and they were using the fourth density,
Mhm.
which is kind of like chaos. So there's a lot of fourth density beings and they were using them to take control of the human beings.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of ickiness, and that's where you get the reptilians and the Draco and the tall whites and all
Mhm.
of, not necessarily the tall whites, what were they called, the tall grays.
Mhm.
So you get all of them, and the tall grays were actually human gone wrong. So they were from another Earth that they had actually destroyed. So they wanted our genetics.
Yeah.
So you have to think about all the parallels and all, go look at them up the multiverse
Mhm.
and go watch some multiverse movies if this is really crazy sounding to you, if you're
Right.
interested. But it really helps to know. But the fourth density beings are not around anymore. We've gone beyond that. And the souls that were controlling everything, they're not around anymore either.
That's
So
right.
really, we're free and clear. We just
Mhm.
don't totally know it yet.
Right. So, I mean, think about a parallel Earth that just went so wrong.
Mm.
And then they get the technology, and there must be some kind of good in there somewhere that wants to try to fix it, but they're tinkering with what is not, doesn't belong to them. They shouldn't have been
Right.
doing these things. But I mean, that is what gives you an idea of the worst case scenario. If you don't take care of things now, something like that could come upon us, but we're not on that track anymore. We're definitely on a steady timeline. And I'm very grateful for that because as we slid on and off of this thing, some people experience their own little Mandela things, and I think that's actually some kind of proof. It gives you an idea that yes, it really does happen, and maybe these things are coming in and out of our perspective and stuff like this here because we are doing that shifting. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, we're shifting so much. Did you want to see the video?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So this is a video that Dana had, and he kind of
Okay.
makes a conglomeration. Oh, wait a minute. Let's stop that. I want to make sure that there's sound. I forget that usually. Okay, here we go.
Okay, no, we're not doing that. What? Yeah, we're doing this? For real? Why do I have to be that guy? What is beyond the ice wall of Antarctica? Disclaimer, obviously a theory and should be considered for entertainment purposes only. Yes, this is the ridiculous Earth plane theory, or at least a part of it. Now, personally, I think this map is complete bullcrap. There's just countless evidence that goes against it. Before ever even considering a theory, you always need to look for some sort of tangible proof. And these mysterious blue shards reported in a leak from Antarctic research labs are a little more revealing. They were leaked by this helicopter engineer who was contracted to work at McMurdo Station in Antarctica from 1997 to the year 2000. And if you don't know, McMurdo Station is usually where shit goes down. So this engineer, let's call him Jimmy Boy, claimed that he befriended a few of the scientists doing research there in 1998. The scientists told him that they had two types of ice they worked with down there. There was this ice that they drilled cores out of boreholes in the ground that was cold to the touch, usually clear or some shade of white, and melted into water. Almost all of Antarctica is covered with this type of ice, which is just normal ice. Clearly, this wasn't their main focus of research. The only times they ever actively study this ice is when film crews from like National Geographic came down to film a documentary. The other 95% of the time, they studied the forbidden sky ice, totally different than the ice that we're used to. Jimmy wasn't allowed in the labs where they studied sky ice because it was, you know, super duper top secret. But one time, one of the scientists he got close with showed him a piece of the ice, and it was unlike any other matter he's ever seen on Earth. First of all, you couldn't touch it with your bare hands and had to wear your heavy-duty South Pole exploration gloves when holding it because of how cold it was. Secondly, as you can tell, it was this solid deep blue color, allegedly composed mainly of oxygen, and is why they called it sky ice. And oh man, I haven't even scratched the surface of how deep this goes. Oxygen has a freezing point of about negative 218 degrees Celsius, which is when it turns into a solid, so you'd practically get frostbite just by looking at it. Jimmy held it for a bit with his gloves, of course, noting that it was lighter than regular ice, almost like he could have thrown it up in the air and it would have floated back down. It was also slightly flexible and completely opaque, so you couldn't see through it at all. And it didn't even melt into water when it got warm, but just continually shrank until it ceased to exist, likely turning directly into oxygen gas. Which is why they had to study it in Antarctica. They couldn't even transport it to anywhere in the world before it disappeared. The Russians knew about this too, and it's part of the reason they all have research stations down there. After 15 minutes or so, the sky ice was almost completely gone, and Jimmy asks his research friend where they even get this ice from. And this is where it gets interesting. Because to that, the scientist replied, they get it from the wall. According to him, if you go deep enough, hundreds of kilometers inland from the coast, you'll run into a huge wall in Antarctica that contains this sky ice, the biggest natural structure in the world. This sounds a lot like the infamous ice wall from the pancake Earth theory, which states there's a giant wall of ice that surrounds our entire planet, and there's even more land beyond this wall if you somehow manage to get past it, including the legendary lands of Atlantis, Meru, the Garden of Eden, and even Asgard. Obviously just an incredible stretch of a theory, but interesting to see the ice wall mentioned in a scientific setting here. Now, buckle in, cause this is where it actually gets insane, in case you felt like it wasn't already. The US has known about this sky ice for decades, and back in the 60s, they actually tried boring a tunnel through the ice wall. They built a special boring machine made for the super cold temperatures of the sky ice wall and started digging. For the first 2 miles or so, the floor was solid rock, but after that, even the ground under them became the bright blue sky ice, until they got about 5 to 10 miles deep after an entire year of boring, which is pretty damn far and still no sight of the other side. When they realized the tunnel was shrinking and eventually got so small that they could barely even move their machine anymore. Turns out sky ice, when exposed to warmer temperatures, just dissipates into thin air, but in colder temperatures, like inside the tunnel, it regenerates itself. Eventually, the tunnel got so tight, it became too difficult to continue boring, so they scrapped the project, ditched the machine, and after many decades, the hole they dug into the wall has now been completely sealed. Now, some people say this sky ice wall sounds almost exactly like what would be called the dome or the firmament in the horizontal earth, or at least fragments of it, and even the most popular book in the world had something to say about it. Ezekiel 1:26 reads, "And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone." Now, whether you believe in the Bible or not, we can all agree it is by definition a historic text. Text that was written sometime in history. Firmament over their heads? Appearance of a sapphire stone? I mean, I really don't want to believe this is true, and who knows, maybe this entire sky ice Antarctica story is just completely made up, but as always, What if
Okay, so
land
I want
beyond this wall? If you
to turn off his volume. And then there was this little part in there
Hmm.
that looked, oh, it's with me. This. Oh, stop. Okay,
There you go.
so you have the waters above,
Yeah.
and then you have this, which looks like bricks, but I think that's supposed to be the dome. And the thing is that because we don't realize how big Earth actually is, they
Mhm.
think it's flat, but it's actually this enormous toroidal field, and the dome only covered, and this includes the dome going beyond both ice walls, only covered maybe a quarter of the actual, lands of Earth.
Right.
So everything is a lot different than what people think.
Absolutely. I mean, she's a super Earth. It would take, like the dome that we're under is 100,000 miles. You know, it would take 6 of those to go all the way around her. You know,
Yeah.
that's just why I have that thing back there to give people an idea of, but it's massive. So, I mean, and to be in something that's 100,000 miles, you can, at certain times, you can perceive it as being flat, according to where you're at,
Mhm.
or it can have like a shape to it, a bend to it. But she's definitely round. She's definitely a round, beautiful planet. So, and I'm looking forward to getting that frequency off of her, because the rest of the Earth is already in this 5D. You know, we're the ones that's
Yeah.
late for the party. And that's because we're here to save and help wake up people inside this here dome.
Yeah. And the window's closing for that. I mean, the end of
Mhm.
2026 is when you have to have made your decision
Mhm.
to ascend in your body or not. So we will have a lower population. People are already realizing that a lot of people aren't really real.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of holographic people. There are people that have a human consciousness, but they don't have a soul, like a big soul that's come down to help them. So they will probably not ascend in their body at this
Mhm.
point, but they're still ascending. So they'll still be fine and they'll still be part of the human soul group. But when we go through this process and the veil disappears, none of that stuff's going to be frightening anymore.
Right.
It's going to be amazing.
Exactly.
That's right. And we have a lot of souls that want to come onto the planet. So it'll be a baby boom #2.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
So many that wants to get here, and I don't blame them. But
That video had egg-shaped villages. I just
Mhm.
wanted to talk about that before we move on. Did you
Sure. Yeah. You want me to
those
find them?
You mean those
You
little
can-
dome ones behind the ice wall looking thing? Yeah, those are same kind of shapes that as far as like the glass housing I'll be doing. It's like those little dome houses. So
I'll see if
yeah,
I can find them.
yeah, there's a good amount of folks that have done a video just on that picture when I was doing the research, and they thought it was pretty real. They look pretty accurate. There they are.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, it feels like a pocket. Um, there's way more than that going on, but this is definitely, it doesn't feel like it was recently built. It feels a little older to me. Um, but yeah, feels like a
oh, I thought that
gateway.
was AI generated behind him.
Yeah, it could be AI, but there is something similar to what, they're
Right,
showing out there.
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, they definitely wanted to make sure that wall was high enough that we couldn't see something like this. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So
Yeah, and that's why you can't fly or boat or do anything to get close down
mhm.
there. I think that's going to change rather quickly and be quite shocking for people.
Well, like you were saying earlier, honey, about even Japan has discovered, new islands out there. Where those islands come from. We've been here for, hundreds and hundreds of years. Somebody just now found them. I just thought that was so funny.
7,000 of them.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So they're going to start popping up because they did use a lot of like smoke screens, things that could hide it, to our visuals. So, and
Oh,
all they
yeah.
have to do is clear that out, and then poof, it was already there. We just didn't know because it was being shielded or covered by a hologram or smoke screen, so to speak. So a lot more things like that is going to be happening is because of just that. We're going to start really. So our people are just now getting smart enough to find, 7,000 island. I'm all for it. So.
It's gonna be
Insane.
fun.
And there's folks that show red waterfalls found in Antarctica. The
Yeah.
research says that it's high levels of iron in the water, but it's really red. It's like it's blood red. So is it really iron or is it something else?
I think there's a bacteria in there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a type of bacteria that can live in rust areas, and they feed off of that. And it kind of like multiplies it. But whenever I do think that it does have a type of bacteria in it, I've heard other people say, that it's possibly blood leaking out of a giant or something like this here, Well, that's a possibility too. If that's where your mind wants to take you, then that's okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, those pictures were pretty stunning. And then with regards to the waters, so the waters beyond the ice wall, they're healing, they're rejuvenating, they're almost like a fountain of youth. And Beyond Mystic and TBJ, they had a deep dive on this and it kept coming up. It was a focal point. So I just want to touch on the waters. Is it a fountain of youth? What does it do for humans?
I get it's compatible. So a lot of our water is not really compatible to the
Right.
human body. We don't have the same, we have H2O2, I think, inside of our body. So we have more hydrogen. That's why people are drinking hydrogen water now. But I feel like out there it's just naturally effervescent. So
Mhm.
it's going to help everybody live longer. And I wonder, that feels like a frequency that they screwed around with too,
Right.
that caused that to happen here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the water is clean, then it has a frequency to it. Okay.
Mhm.
And they definitely maintained that on their side for their benefit and stuff like this here and allowed our waters and everything else to become contaminated. So that same type of frequency could clean it up as well. And that leads me back to New Jersey and California and down there at Texas, and the waters are starting to show these different colors. Maybe that has something to do with it as well. It's a frequency-based thing that it just takes a little bit of time to make it blend, so to speak, without causing major damage. So, but yeah, healing wise, yes, it's definitely better for us because it's higher energy and it's clean. So why wouldn't that be better for us? So, yeah.
Clean and pristine. Now, most of us know about the Gone with the Wind program, where you have ex-celebrities that fake their death, they pass away, and they go on to a witness protection program. They're hidden. Juan O'Savin called it Valhalla. And as soon as he said that, it just hit me that that's not necessarily close to us within the ice wall. But I wanted to deep dive on that. And just to give background on Valhalla, if that's the first time you've heard of it, it's the Norse Viking mythology. That's where slain warriors go to rest and throughout the rest of their lives. And it's also connected to the Vikings, of course. And they also talk about the archipelago, which is a collection of islands. And I'm obsessed with How to Train Your Dragon. So I actually, I've watched all the movies and my kids don't love it yet, but hopefully they will eventually. It's kind of scary for them because they're so little, but it just all connected. So where is Valhalla? Is it in the ice wall, outside of the ice wall, like beyond, or?
Between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you can go to Agartha, but in different stages. There's a higher, more the surface, and then the deeper you can go. Well, they were definitely coming across what they would call this Valhalla, and that would be the access they can get through in these tunnels and stuff like this here. And the Vikings were also known for this the dragon myths and the acapellos, and over in the top part of Africa, they actually speak of these Acapolos, I think is what it's called there, these dragons, that they say that lived during the time, and they have these hermetic texts that speaks of all of these here, and somewhere in there where you wouldn't think at the top of Africa, it has reference to Vikings. So I'm thinking, so they actually, maybe they did come that far because they traveled all the way around Greenland and everything else. But yeah, I found that very, very fascinating. And you like dragons, Dana? Is that what it is? You're a dragon girl?
I probably have a blue dragon. Who knows? Yeah, I like
Yeah.
dragons. So funny. There's this
Sapphire.
place. Yes, exactly. Sapphire. There's this place. It's called iFly, and you get to. It throws a huge amount of air up, and you can actually do indoor skydiving. That's basically what it is. And they have this How to Train Your Dragon visual where you can put it on your head and go. And I actually did that for Mother's Day one year. It's just so fun.
Wow,
But
that's
it
pretty cool.
was
Great.
really fun. But yes, I do
Yeah.
love that feeling. Let's move on to exotic animals beyond the ice wall. So unicorns, dragons, the mythology, and then also things that we've heard about like woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers. Research has also found fossils in Antarctica and of an ancient duck-like creature that were very large. So just want to talk about some of those, size of them, dinosaurs, anything that comes up to you guys.
Well, the Titans had animals too, so, and then think about like there were all these different iterations of giants. Like they kept shrinking. So the
Mhm.
animals would shrink along with them. And there's places where you can see mushrooms that are petrified and they're huge. They're like probably 12 to 15 feet tall, these
Mhm.
mushrooms. So
Forest
that
of
would,
mushrooms.
right, forests of them. So there's, we're going to see all kinds of stuff. A lot of it will be larger versions of what we already know, and I don't think that there's all small stuff outside the ice wall. It's big,
Right.
because they have a lot more oxygen out there. And
Exactly.
so
And a lot of these
things are
animals
bigger.
were modified to us and our size and our situation. So,
Mhm.
but we do know of the animals that used to be bigger, right? Even the sloth. That sucker used to be like 15 feet high, and now we have them. They're about 3 feet. So, but everything was downsized, just like we were. I mean, you used to be a lot bigger, and now we're all downsized too. So,
Mhm. Yeah, we used to probably be around 15 feet, I would think, was kind of
yeah.
our normal height. And we will probably, in evolution, I don't think we'll be pushed to grow. Like, I don't think we'll be genetically modified to get bigger, but I do think we'll just grow. Well, our generations will be bigger and bigger as we go because we're going to have more oxygen to support that.
Clean, clear oxygen.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
pristine
Contaminated.
waters.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mhm.
So what does Mother Earth feel about the lands beyond the ice wall? I feel like we're the redheaded stepchildren, no offense against redheads. And there's just, she can breathe with the other beings and the other life forms out there.
It just feels clear to her. Like she doesn't have to caretake it so much. We're
Mhm.
kind of like I don't know, an area on your body that you're not satisfied with, you know, that she keeps having to rearrange everything. So that's
Yeah.
why we have all these floods and earthquakes, and a lot of that is Mother Earth at this point. I mean, we do have some concentrated storms, and
Mhm.
that's not necessarily her, but a lot of the stuff that's been happening has been her and her rearranging everything and clearing the layers because we've had layers and layers of civilizations here that were not that great.
Right.
So she's clearing all of that energy.
Well, the way I perceived it was that, she's looking upon it like uh, a wound and
Mhm.
seeing the healing of it, and it's like she could see the progression of the healing, just like we would with a wound on us. So, and that in itself, you know, makes her very, very happy that things are changing and it's healing. That's the key word. It's healing. Everything
Yeah.
inside of it is healing. So I think that's wonderful.
Mhm. It's true. It is healing. Yeah.
And for folks that are beyond the ice wall, the Tartarians, they're very familiar with the inner earth beings. So what is their relationship? What does that look like?
I think they visit each other. I don't think they necessarily mix too much, but they do intermarry once in a while. It just feels like it's two different civilizations and they spend time with each other, but they're not trying to like integrate too much. They enjoy their differences. But when they do come together, it's fun, is what I'm getting, like, or they come together for a project, one or the other.
Right.
Mhm.
So they are definitely a higher frequency being. So, and that tells you that the Tartarians have raised their frequency enough that they can actually deal with these people, have relations with these people, you know, but, and that's the route that we're going. We're going to be able to have a higher enough frequency to where we can deal with the Tartarians and the Angarthians and so forth. So I just imagine that we're going to be able to mingle and see all these different other races and beings themselves. But it's just a matter of raising our frequency still. So
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to get more and more interesting as we go. And after the window is closed, which it's stretched before and then gone back, the window of ascension is closed and people have decided one way or the other what they're doing. That's going to be a huge change as well because we won't have as many people here. And I don't think we'll have as many holographic people at all. I don't think we're going to need them. So the population it will appear to have dropped quite a bit. But that means we can get into the good stuff really deeply at that point.
Exactly. So I mean, we do know that there's going to be some changes and losses, but remember that they're going to be using a lot of these here NPCs or movie scenes to make it seem like it so they can pull at our hearts. So just take it with a grain of salt. If there's somebody in that area that's involved with you, then that's a different scenario. But as far as like anything on the mainstream media, if that's what they're putting out, it is to, you know, one, to let us know that these changes are happening, and two, they're trying to put fear into us. So.
Yes, so to wrap up this conversation with my last question, of course, we can pontificate about this so long, but is there anything else going on beyond the ice wall that the human brain can hear but has never experienced? Is it food? We've talked about buildings, we talked about the waters, the animals. Is there anything else that pops in?
Well, there is a huge ET interaction going on out there. There's a huge silver disc on the other side of the earth that is like the landing pad where a lot of ETs come. And there's a lot of interaction with the Tartarians right near there. And I think that's going to grow as we elevate. The ETs will be able to interact with the whole planet. So that'll change pretty dramatically. And they're ready. They want to. They
Absolutely.
want to start talking to us. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's millions of ships over there, my brothers and sisters. They're not just, you know, one particular kind. There is so many that has come here to help, and they are, let's just say that they're dealing with the Tartarians now, so that they're preparing to come deal with us. But there is so much help here, and stay positive about it because it is very real, very true, and we are seeing the changes. And just accept it with open arms, but just relax into it. You know, everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's going as planned. It's good. So.
Yeah. And you can start to see them now if you can deal with your own vibration and try and turn up your vibration and ask your body if it can match the vibration of the ETs. Because I've seen them and then closed my eyes and blocked it out, you know, so we definitely can see them at this point. it's up to you whether you allow it or not, because they're all around us.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Go outside and talk up. Say, I'd like to see you anytime now. Just be casual about it. I'm open and willing and allowing it. Just let them know that you can recognize that to allow you to see it. And you'll be surprised. You keep doing that, then they will show you because that you made the effort.
That's right. Yeah. And for those of you that have children that see beings, talk to them about it. Have them ask them questions about what color are they. My 4-year-old, he always sees a being and he always points to it and says, "Oh, there it is." I'm like, "What color is it?" It's always blue. The last time he said it was hairy, which is interesting. And yeah, honey, we've talked about this before, that it's the Lemurian connection to them,
Yeah.
the sons. But yeah, they can see it. They're already there. Their frequency is already there. It's amazing.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, man.
That's why they're going to kind of start to lead the way more eventually, They're going to show us things that we weren't able to see before. So the kids will be the ones who really tear down the veil, which is only here at this point.
Right. So it gives a new
Mhm.
meaning to a child these days saying they have an imaginary friend.
Oh, yeah,
Gives a new meaning to it, doesn't it? So.
they do.
But I did have a
Mhm.
question for you, Dana. I've had a couple of ladies ask me that, you're all about, the mothering and bringing in that good feeling, and you dealing with children and stuff like this here. Is there something that you are doing or can start doing that could help mothers with teaching their children certain things? And do you have a technique or do you have a class or something that you do that with? Because I've had ladies with kids and I'm always suggesting you and they're like, well, she'd be great to do like a class to teach mothers how to interact with their children and bring these things to them. So I was wondering if you have anything like that in mind. So
Well, as the journey that I'm on right now is moving into that parenthood vibe, where I am working more with their vibration, their frequency, their emotions. I always talk to them about their big feelings. There's a couple things that I do with adults that I can do with children, which is tapping through the meridians, and just saying affirmations as you tap through these meridians. It's also called EFT, Emotional
okay.
Freedom Technique, and you can find a ton of videos on there. And because I heavily rely on resources, Sherry Divband with the Aramis Learning Center. You can also find her on YouTube. And Honey and I, we've done a video with Sherry. She has a lot of online classes. So to get something that's established, that's right now, available right now, that would be my first resource. I believe it's sherrydivband.com. She's right there and she is doing a ton of things. So I would have to refer to her from a parenthood aspect. And I know that my initial mission right now is to focus on, fertility, conception, pregnancy, and childbirth. But at the same time, I know that's going to eventually change because humanity is just going to get it. And by 2030, hopefully we're there where we get it. There's more water births and births with dolphins and things like that. But of course, my life is changing and morphing into more parenting aspects. So doing things with the children. I have this big organite, a lot of different crystals, and I always show it to them and they just gravitate toward it. They love it. Things like that, taking them to the beach so that they can just play in the sand and ground. Little things like that. It's amazing how little things are huge for children. And I think we don't have to complicate it. If we could simplify it, it would be amazing. My husband showed me a video once where parents, they wrapped up a banana and they gave it to the kid for the birthday or something like that. And she opened it and she was like, a banana. So it's funny, but their world is so interesting. So anything can really entice them. It's really amazing. But thank you for asking that, Alisa.
Yeah, I mean, because I do think that you would be a wonderful teacher, even to children, like games, different things that parents could try And think
Mhm.
about that. Just think about going to the beach. You didn't think about grounding. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful projects. They're all coming.
Yes, they are.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. This was beautiful. Thank you, Dana, for putting it all together
Yes.
and asking us such great questions, and Alisa for bringing all your brilliance. Thank you so much. Yes, it's been
Absolutely.
great.
And we were talking about Tartaria, and both of you ladies know that I wrote a song Beyond the Ice Wall. So if everybody gets a chance, go over and check it out on my YouTube channel. It's actually my rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So
Yes,
just go check it out. And thank you, ladies, for setting this up and inviting me today. I love you always. You know that.
we
So
love you too. Yes, and we'll put
Well-
all the links below for sure for everything. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.